Hi, my name is Anna Carrig, and this is my civil engagement research project. I did this project over education for low-income children. Okay, so a question I want you to ponder throughout this presentation is, how can the government improve the education for children living in poverty so that they have an equal opportunity for success in their future as children who receive higher and more expensive education? So some facts about this are that only 13% of children living in poverty achieved a score of proficient compared to 40% of children who were not poor. So as you can see that there are noticeable trends where students who have the resources, a more funded education, maybe even more qualified educators, are excelling in their education, and children living in poverty don't necessarily receive these same tools and benefits, and as a result, their test scores are suffering. The next one says inequality in mathematics and reading skills result in inequality in educational attainment and inequality in labor market earnings. So as we move forward in life, you can see that education really does impact life after school. If children aren't excelling in their education and aren't proficient in these necessary skills, they enter the real world less advantaged and not equipped to succeed. And so it starts with the not scoring proficiently, and it results in the inequality in labor market earnings. And that's a rough path to watch happen. So overall, children living in poverty are unable to receive the proper education and use the proper tools necessary to excel in education as children living in higher income schools. And I got those facts from the source below, and there are plenty more if you want to read more about that. So why does education matter? Education is directly related to economic growth, reduced income inequalities, reduced infant and maternal deaths, reduced stunting, reduced vulnerability to HIV and AIDS, and reduced violence at home and in society. So you can see that education directly impacts a broad range of factors in life. These are just a few that I took. The source below goes into detail on them if you'd like to read more about those. So, how do we lessen the gap between the education of children living in poverty and children who are not? I took 4 points from the source below, and these ones I found really to be pretty important. The first one is advocating for change within the educational system. Obviously, that's important, and we're going to see in the second point when I say make the consequences of inadequate education known. If you make these consequences known, there's going to be a bigger push to see change in this educational system problem. So those kind of directly are correlated. 3 says be proactive in making partnerships and programs that support the education of children living in poverty. This is so important. We know that when programs and policies are made, that's when change really starts to happen. So this is vital first to see change. And support opportunities for children's educational success. So again, those are just 4 main ones I took out. There are plenty more. So the solution, William Parrott and Kathleen Budge say successfully educating all students to high standards is critical to ultimately eliminating poverty. If, as educators, we feel powerless to address bigger issues such as living wage jobs and healthcare reform, Gorski proposes that we ask ourselves, are we willing, at the very least, to tackle the classism in our own schools and classrooms? So I chose to highlight this text from the cited source below because it explains that society is so focused and concerned with the evident issues such as living wage jobs and healthcare reform that they kind of just focus on those, and they miss the fact that it begins with education. It starts at the root, which is lessening the gap of education between children living in poverty and children who are not. And it is necessary that we are looking for ways to provide all school-age children with educational tools and the education needed, straight up, that they have those things to succeed in the real world. So I definitely think that it is our duty to look at these problems and come up with ways to be the solution. So this was my civil engagement research project, and I hope you learned something and enjoyed it. Thank you.